This video is sponsored by Husk, the new free app extension that helps you to remember what you learned on the internet. The very opening credits of Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas subconsciously prepares us for what's to come. The names whiz by, almost like passing cars on the road, but from rewatching the movie, it seems to indicate just how fast life breezes by, that this lifestyle we're about to be exposed to never stops. Goodfellas is one of the greatest gangster movies ever made. Some would say the best. But what is it about it that grabs our attention and never quite lets it go? For other crime masterpieces like The Godfather, it's the unique theme music, the art direction, the acting, some of the dialogue, even the themes of family, business, life and death. But for Goodfellas, sure, the script is great, the acting is great, the music is great, but for me, the cinematography and the editing are its calling card. So huge credit is owed to both the director of photography, Michael Ballhaus, who worked with Scorsese on several other projects like Gangs of New York and The Color of Money, and editor Thelma Schoonmaker, who met Scorsese in college and edited most of his movies from 1980 onwards, as both of their fingerprints are all over the visual storytelling of this movie. With Goodfellas, Scorsese has essentially told a story that is so jam-packed with people, places, plans, violence, and drugs that you almost have to stop and take a breath just to appreciate a moment when it's happened. This is why key moments in Henry's life are halted with freeze frames. This happens 9 times in the movie. When he first introduces us to the life with the famous line, "As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster." When his father beats him as a teenager for skipping school, so we can see Henry slipping away from his parents' control, but it also shows us that violence was a part of his home life too. Attacking the postman to stop him from delivering letters from school, officially closing off any possibilities of Henry being normally educated. Henry blowing up a lot full of cars, now having earned the respect of his peers. After he gets arrested and is socially rewarded for not ratting on his friends, a flash moment of Jimmy shooting Billy Bats in the trunk, and when a paranoid Jimmy reveals he's going to whack Maury, and then when Jimmy tries to set Henry up after he's busted, and finally Henry looking back at him, realizing it's a trap to take him out. These moments are frozen because they mark a point of no return as Henry gets more and more entrenched in this life with no way out. Scorsese uses so many different camera techniques to tell this story. Quick zooms, tilts, pans, freeze frames, slow motion, handhelds, point of view, time lapses, extreme close-ups, even breaking the fourth wall. These are all visual storytelling techniques to convey the character's state of mind, or the focus of their attention. But the key to Goodfellas is undeniably its tracking shots. A zoom shot, tilt, or a pan is when the camera is locked into one place and is rotated up, down, or to either side. But in a tracking shot, the camera is physically moving, which reshapes the landscape, proportions, and perspectives of the shot, as well as keeping up with the ongoing drama of the scene. In total, I counted 204 tracking shots in the movie. Yes, I counted. Some are very short and almost slip by unnoticed, like this. And some are long. Goodfellas has several tracking shots that carry us through entire buildings. Sometimes the whole scene is captured in just one shot. This means it requires not only perfect art direction and camera work, but choreography. The most famous example is Henry's date with Karen, where he takes her through the back entrance and has a front row seat set up just for him, giving us a real taste of what it's like to be in Henry's world. This shot lasts for a total of 3 minutes and 2 seconds. They easily could have been less ambitious here and just had them walk in, cut, maybe show them walking through the kitchen, cut, then have a table made for them, cut. But instead the entire building is alive with action the entire time. Even when we do finally cut, the audio from the previous scene still lingers over the next.
Finds a way home. I said, where do you want to go for your anniversary?
So we never really separate anything, it's all tangled together. Scorsese has several epic tracking shots like this throughout the movie, usually lasting under a minute each. But something that adds to the pace of the story, as well as these shots, is how jam-packed they are with people.
And me, and there was Anthony Stabile,
How you doing?
Frankie Carbone,
For 3/4 of the movie, there's dozens or hundreds of extras in every shot, which shows us how social that lifestyle is, that everything all goes by in a whirlwind of meeting people, shaking hands, saying hello, whispering secret plots, arranging money, committing crimes, and all of it is done in teams. It's a group effort, like one big family. You don't have time to stop and think, just like the characters don't, which is why we need these brief moments of freeze frame to make a point. Scorsese then contrasts this towards the end of the story, after so many characters are killed and time has passed, that the life just feels different now. It's more lonely and cold, fewer extras, grey hair, grey weather. When the story is gliding along, so is the camera, which is a much more involving way of telling the story. So many gangster movies are characters sitting down saying things, wide shots, dinner tables, shootouts, and Goodfellas occasionally does that too, but it's rare. When characters are sitting down eating and drinking, then the camera tends to finally rest and just settle into the scene almost like a witness. But when there's anything larger at play, it's in motion. For example, to emphasize new pressing information for the characters, like when Karen starts to realize the criminal underworld she's participating in, Scorsese uses quick zooms, almost to demonstrate alarm.
How can you mention it? Vinny'd kill him. Please.
Similarly, this is how he uses slow motion too, like when Henry hands her a gun. The violence that preceded it is so shocking to her. Everything was speeding by in a whirlwind, but now, instead of moving and meeting people, it's slowed down to show the cold hard truth of what she's involved in. She can't hide from it anymore because it's staring her in the face. Sometimes the camera stays locked in one position to tilt and pan, and then starts unexpectedly tracking. Other times it tracks to a position to stop, almost to give us a sense of place before we eavesdrop. Other times it frantically pans to show us more information, like here we have Tommy entering angry, then we fly over to Henry, who realizes what's going on and wants to put a stop to it, and then the camera tracks slightly to the right, and rests at the key point of drama. In Goodfellas, so much gets achieved in just one shot. Action in the story, reaction from the character, and fast action with the camera. If Scorsese does choose to cut, he match cuts, sometimes from a door closing to a door opening, or we start tracking in a direction and then we cut to a new location with the same tracking speed, so we've jumped ahead in time with the very same action, which gives the impression that we never stop. This is all planned meticulously ahead of time, and really adds a unique texture to the film. There's so much audio and visual information thrown at the characters and the audience that it's both intoxicating and stressful at the same time. If keeping the camera moving isn't enough, Scorsese even uses a picture book technique to show them on holiday, just throwing pellets of information at us to show how engrossed in the lifestyle the characters are, but establishing it even quicker. So this is all well and good to keep the story moving, and involving us in the world that the characters inhabit. But with so much going on, how does Scorsese create tension? He uses a few different techniques. The strip it all down approach, where he finally locks the camera off in one position like a fly on the wall for the whole scene. Or just keeps it simple and static like the famous How Am I Funny scene, where we don't get any camera movements to distract us. Instead, we have to just sit and worry about what might happen because everything is eerily quiet and still. When the camera stops worrying, it's almost like we're being told nothing else matters, so we can just give ourselves to what's in front of us. Or on the flip side, he speeds things up so much with both faster moving camera work and more frequent cuts. The most famous sequence being when Henry is orchestrating a coke deal while also collecting his brother, cooking a meal, and growing increasingly paranoid of the helicopter potentially following him overhead. Here Scorsese takes everything he's been doing so far and turns it up to 11. Music, panning, tilting, tracking, zooming, close-ups, but most importantly, cuts. This entire sequence goes on for 9 minutes and 47 seconds, and in that space of time, there's 106 cuts. That means, on average, there's a cut every 5.5 seconds. Sometimes they happen all at once, sometimes they're more spread out, but this makes everything feel jumpy and tense. We're not being seduced into the underworld anymore. Now we're too busy to stop or settle. It's too much too fast that you can barely get your bearings before you're on to the next task, location, or problem. And that's why all of this pace and tension builds to a crescendo, where once again, Scorsese slows us down. But this time, the sharp contrast between the speed we were moving to where we are now is almost relieving, as the previous pace was nauseating. He then jump cuts inside, where that pace persists, as Karen runs to the bathroom using a handheld camera, juxtaposing the different realities the characters are living in. Henry may have stopped, but inside, the chaos continues. There's one other technique that I think is only used once in the movie, when Henry and Jimmy meet up to suss each other out. Here, Scorsese uses the dolly zoom, or what's known as the Jaws effect. It's very subtle, but you can see we slightly track in, while also slowly zooming out. Just look at how it warps the reality going on outside the window, creating a nauseating tension, almost like sucking in a deep breath. It also shows us the contrast between the two characters and the anxiety of what direction the story might go from here. Are we on the same side and moving together, or pulling away from one another? This uncertainty isn't just in the acting or the dialogue, but the camera itself. Goodfellas is one of my favourite Scorsese movies, but if you've ever wondered why, when you sit down to watch even just 10 minutes of it, that you accidentally end up binging the full 2.5 hours, it's because much like the gangster life itself, it pulls you in and doesn't let you go. It all flies by so fast, just like life itself. Big moments, small moments, highs and lows, and you have to not only wonder where the time went, but the people who were taken out along the way. As just like Scorsese's opening credits, these moments and characters are just passing by, and then it's all over, in an instant. Just before you go, let me tell you about a new free app that's going to revolutionize the way you use the internet and watch YouTube videos. It's called Husk. Humans forget 50% of the information they're exposed to after just 1 hour, and 90% after a full week. But Husk lets you save and log anything online all in one place, and make personal notes on it. It won't just bookmark a page, but will even take a small exact excerpt of a YouTube clip for you to keep as a key reference. So essentially you're storing your own lessons, thoughts and feelings on what you absorbed each day that you can easily reflect on anytime. This helps you create a memory index and flow all of the key information you want into one note, making your research more personal, memorable, and powerful. So download Husk for free today and upgrade not only your memory, but the way you interact with the internet. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all those good things that help me to make more videos like this in the future.